recording.
Yeah. Good evening, students, teachers, and parents of Kothari International School, Pune. Welcome to Expert Talk series. As your host for the series, I'm the principal of Kothari International School, Pune, Ishita Ghoshal. We are glad and privileged to present our speaker expert for the evening, Dr. Mrs. Devasena Desai. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening to
And
one and
Dr.
all.
Dev Sena is a consultant psychologist. She's a parent counselor and gifted educator with the Kaveri Gifted team. She has a lot of accolades to her credit, but we'll try to name a few for the time being. She has been associated with the European Council for Higher Ability. She has been an adjunct lecturer at the University of Iowa and has specialization in the field of gifted education. We are indeed privileged, and it's a complete pleasure, ma'am, to have you with us. And to begin with, today, the topic that we have chosen to assist our students, parents, teachers, and entire school community, Dr. Desai, is exploring students' creative and critical thinking skills with the parents. So, Dr. Desai, my first question to you is, what is creative and critical thinking skill in a child?
Very warm welcome to all the teachers and parents. And I think this is a very unusual new academic year where I think we will be avoiding human interactions, which is so important for social well being, especially. And I can totally understand what each one of you must be going through. Very unprecedented times. And thank you for the warm welcome, Ishita. It's wonderful to interact always with parents, with aspiring young kids. A very pertinent question you have asked is, which is very unique in terms of understanding the growing years. What most parents would like to know is creative and critical thinking. How do we really enhance that?
True.
First and foremost, let's understand what do we mean by creative thinking. This word seems so big, it's used both in schools and in corporates and colleges. But if you break it down, it's just simple few skills that children do very naturally, actually. We have to look at observing. When we talk about creativity, first and foremost, how the child is observing and seeing things which is around him. Many a times we find that kids miss points mainly because they're so much in a hurry. But if we as parents, we encourage them where they can pause, look, appreciate what is around them. It's where they learn about creativity. The next one is when we're talking about creativity is how do we really think differently from what others are really thinking? And the common word again is think out of the box. What do you really mean by out of this box? Out of the box means we're talking about something which others have not thought of and which is a bright idea that I have thought of and I want to look at it in a different way. So, something which is different, which is unique, that is being creative. And then you come into let's look at when we're talking about thinking, how does the child really think about these things when he is doing? When you're talking about up to primary years, it's very common. It comes very naturally, actually. In fact, you find them all the time curious, all the time seeing, observing, and describing it. And parents are all able to see that child is very fascinated. The curiosity makes them look at everything, touch, feel, smell, and look at things. So we need to continue to see how we can hone such skills. The next question you asked about was critical thinking. Now, again, when we talk about critical thinking, it's something that we as parents do and children imitate very well. In our day-to-day life, if you look at, we are comparing prices, when we go, this product is this much, that. So the thought process that goes when we analyze things, compare and contrast. These skills are critical thinking skills. How do
True.
we analyze? By saying that Pune is better than Mumbai in terms
Right.
of population. So we use facts and figures
Hmm.
versus opinion,
Hmm.
right? So how do
Hmm.
you really look at facts? Do we really look at everything that Google says and say it's a fact? How do you break it down to say this is authentic and this is not? The process that goes behind this, that is critical thinking, actually. And when we are looking at the other two main factors in critical thinking is problem solving and decision making.
Right.
Again, if you look at it, um, it starts from very small things, like problem solving for a very young child is like, do I want to wear this dress or this dress? How do I make a decision? When I have a problem with saying, like, I have to share it with my cousin or my friends, the things that I have, how do I really look at dividing and sharing it? So, problem solving and decision making are things that children also do. But when you look at it from academic, then we magnify and say, oh my God, mathematics, that's a little scary. It's physics, it's a little scary. But these are small, small day to day things that we do, which are seen in creative and critical thinking.
Okay. So, you gave a very diverse perspective as to how the mind of this child would work, where on one hand he is putting in a lot of aesthetic value, and on the other hand, a lot of analytical value to the entire enterprise of thinking. And we always understand that children are naturally very creative, isn't it, Doctor?
Absolutely, absolutely. If
And
you see,
yeah,
yeah, please go ahead.
yeah. Please go ahead. You were saying something. If you
Yeah, you said naturally creative, and that is the very beauty of it. When you don't have any inhibitions, when you're not scared, when you're fearless, you're able to easily put two and two together.
true.
When you see children when they're growing up, especially, it's only when they are in secondary and high secondary we find that there are some restrictions because we come under what is the school going to think, what is my friends going to think, how am I expectations of my parents, and
Right.
that kind of creates a block for kids to become a little more open and curious. So
Mm-hmm.
creativity is always there. Imagination, especially in young kids, are very rampant. It's only if we can kind of continue to nourish them that we will be able to see them continue to be creative in different aspects.
So, Dr. Desai, what we usually see as part of adult expectation or a lot of norms which the child needs to conform to, his thinking abilities in the form of being creative is naturally killed to a large extent. Now, how would you give a guidance to parents or to the adults who are bringing up such children, and what kind of environment does a child need where his creativity can actually be propelled?
A very fantastic question that you've asked, because sustaining creativity is the journey,
Right,
and school plays a huge role, and so does parents and family. um, Very natural small things that we do in terms of, if you notice, let's start from the kitchen.
right,
Mothers must have really been very creative in the last 3 months. We have reinvented things, we reinvented recipes, we have decorated stuff before we displayed. You've seen innumerable examples from children to parents exploring, exhibiting aesthetically, creatively situations that have been presented to them. So it
true.
is within us. It's just that we need to nurture it, like you had rightly said. The environment at home has to be where parents have to appreciate the creative expression of children. For example, let's start when we are very young, we really don't know the do's and don'ts. We
Right.
don't know whether an elephant has to be pink or what do we do. Child puts any color. The
Hmm.
immediate reaction would be like, "Arey, elephant is supposed to be gray,"
Right.
you know. And who said in that child's imagination it is pink? But we
Right.
would immediately say that the child will freeze.
Hmm.
Okay. And then, for example, let's say, how do fashions and stuff get created? You know,
Mm.
somebody decides that I will wear a skirt and a shirt. So that
Yes.
becomes fashion. Who tells it has to be a flowery top? Okay.
Right.
But when you say, no, 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 how can you wear a skirt with just the immediate, when you say start with the no, and it's a negation, when you block a person, the thought for the child is, oh, this is not right. I'm not supposed to do it.
Right.
Yeah. Instead of saying no, if we can give an alternative, wow, this looks different. It looks creative, you know? And then you go ahead further by saying that what was the purpose? This is
Yes.
how you see it. This is how you look at things. So when we ask, child really comes up with his or her own logic.
Right.
And we need to understand and accept that. Of course, it is very interesting journey. What children think in primary and what do they end up seeing ultimately, they do steer towards the normality. They
Right.
will definitely not continue to say the elephant is pink. They will say, yes, it's gray, or they may go to shades of gray and stuff like that. So we don't have to kill it in the beginning. Let them discover it.
Hmm.
So allowing children to discover is really very important. And that is actually the asset for every child, because creativity is the mother of invention. We
Yes.
can have innovators. We can have people who come with different ways of how you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So parents have to be very encouraging and also have to do it themselves. So the
Hmm.
child sees. It's not like we can't tell a child, Mera bacha, he has to be the best artist.
Right.
But I don't do much. Or I think that just sending them for drawing class or asking them to go for performing arts that he's going to become.
Hmm.
We need to encourage and discuss with them. Yeah.
Hmm. So somewhere, Dr. Desai, what I feel is largely our mindset doesn't allow us to give children that kind of a freedom to go ahead and explore and discover and then decide for themselves what is right and wrong, as you rightly said, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Um, Freedom exists. The fear of what that freedom will bring.
Hmm.
Will my child not continue and use his potential? If he
Yes,
becomes so interested in art, will he earn money? When we ask such questions, even before the potential is explored, we are blocking.
true.
Yeah.
And
So,
also, when you said art, you just gave an example, but it becomes necessary for us to look at creative thinking ability in a scientific approach as well, in a logical approach as well. How do we encourage
um,
that?
see, when we talk about creativity, it is the way you think. Yeah.
Correct,
And it is a mindset.
correct.
If I'm used to going to school in a particular route, okay, and every day I don't change my route, what is my mindset? It is
Hmm,
fixed. If I'm
hmm,
fixed, I don't see other routes. If I don't see other routes, I don't get other ideas. So
yes,
consciously, if I decide today I've tried this route, tomorrow, let me try this. Now, even before trying, I'll be thinking, if I'm driving to school, this is autopilot mode. But supposing I'm going to try a new one, I need to pay attention. I have to be alert. I have to observe. And I don't want to do that.
yes,
That is the killer. If I
yes.
say I want to try, you never know, something new might happen.
Hmm, hmm,
You might find something different which you haven't seen.
hmm.
And mind also gets used to that flexibility.
True,
And that is very important for creativity.
right.
You need to
So
be
to
flexible to be
develop,
accepting.
yeah, to develop that flexibility and to drive away the fear of the unknown, what kind of suggestions can you give to the adults who are rearing the children in their homes, schools, in the social structure?
I recall very well until I was about 20, 22 years. Like most families, you are forced to think very rigidly and say, this is right and this is wrong. And
Hmm,
you are fearful of trying.
hmm,
It's only when you start learning about creativity and when you have to challenge your mind by saying, consciously, I'm going to break my pattern. Every time I do something out of habit, I have to say, this is a habit. I don't want to follow it. I want to try something new. So you have to condition yourself by saying, I am going to try something new. And only when we do that, we become more open to exploring. Of
Hmm.
course, the fear is supposing I don't reach what I'm expecting, I'm not going to be very happy about it. This kind of makes us stop.
Hmm.
But if you notice, creative people, out of the many ways that they try, they always get different avenues. Let's start, for example, with saying creativity. We are always using our right hand, which is so dominant. We have to
Yes.
explore the other left hand also. We don't know what all things left hand can do. That
Yes.
happens only under circumstances if I have a, a pain, or, I'm hurt or something like that. We don't even explore what this other, side of it
Hmm.
does. Let's take example of today, where everybody is comfortable with mobile, but we didn't want it to go online at all. And today, in 3 months' time, I think entire India is more tech savvy than we've ever been,
Yes.
and for which we would have paid huge amount of money just to get technologically challenged, to get
Right.
advantage of the technology. But today we have broken all our safe patterns. So the
Hmm.
first and foremost thing is killing safe patterns,
Hmm.
breaking habits, and
Okay.
opening yourself for new avenues and embracing that. When we do that, there are, of course, two ways. There are people who do it with risk, and there are people who do without risks.
All
So
right.
you can try with calculated risks that we call. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
know that if I'm cooking, I can't put milk when I'm making something citrus.
Right.
Okay, I'm aware of that knowledge. So
Hmm.
I'm definitely not going to try that. But I can
Good.
try something else.
Hmm.
So this is called looking and calculating before you start taking risks. The
Right.
other is just jumping in and exploring. What
Yes.
happens if I try a bright orange? What will happen, Max?
Hmm.
Why can't I try a violet?
Hmm.
Who's going to stop me? Why should I choose only grays and dark blues and whites? So
Hmm.
when you think like that, then you can cross the barriers of and becoming a little more free in your mind, basically. It's only
Sure.
when you start in your mind, then you can start taking actions.
Hmm. And it's, if we see, it's the adult mind which houses most of these uncertainties and fears, because they have a lot of information and fear about what may happen, and thereby, as you said, be it a career or passion, I know there's no future, so why is the child chasing it? So right in the toddler year itself, the child is always brought into the right and wrong perspective, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's kind of really start giving some concrete ideas to parents. How can they overcome this kind of a mindset from your point of view?
When it is with children, basically parents will have to wait and watch. They
Hmm.
can't make a judgment immediately. I have many parents who come to my private practice and they say, 7 years the child was doing music and suddenly she's not doing it. I've invested so much time and money. Yes, it is true. You spent a lot of time and money. But you also have to look that maybe today the child is uncomfortable. Let's give space and let's encourage the child to listen to different kinds of music. If you're listening to Hindustani, maybe the child suddenly has gone to pop. And you're saying, I have invested so much on traditional music. Why are you going for something like this?
Hmm.
Instead, saying, what do you find similar in music that draws you to this? That's encouraging.
Hmm.
Instead of saying that, why are you, giving up on this? When parents say a no,
Hmm.
or they, start questioning the child, then the child is unable to proceed. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So practical things parents can do is to give encouragement, give
Good.
alternatives,
Hmm.
you know, and allow them to explore. You will
Hmm.
find a lot of children hopping from one to the other,
Right.
you know. एक साल एक किया दूसरे साल they do another thing, then parents are saying what is this. So maybe the child has not found his perfect match and
Correct.
he's exploring. You
Hmm.
need to support that. But as a parent, if you find an inclination that it's only the parent who can decide actually, because
Right.
they know the child so well. Some parents will say that, no, I think I see a potential in this. You're going to continue doing this, but you can explore the other also. So
Hmm.
in that way, they stick to what they feel is the potential of the child.
Right, right.
So that's also very important,
Hmm.
because what you see and sense from children, and having conversations with them as to why and what are they feeling. We need to
Right.
listen to the stories the children say.
Hmm.
Sometimes they really like what they're doing. It's just that where they go to learn, they don't like, or the
Hmm.
hour in which it is being taught, they don't like.
Right.
It's not to do with the activity at all,
Hmm.
you know. So talking to children is really very important. And
Yes.
that is something we can do in a day-to-day basis. And we don't have to really sit like an interrogation. We can have it during dinner, we can have it during a chai time, and share our stories, basically how I made choices. Then we come to critical thinking. How did I make decisions?
Hmm.
you know and when you talk like that, then the child becomes very comfortable sharing and having a dialogue. And when they have a dialogue, they're able to then sit along with parents and also understand their point of view.
Hmm.
This is an open communication taking place. So here
Good.
now we gradually move to communication. Communication between parent and child is really very important. And
Yes.
if they trust the child, they have to show the trust. And even if they find the child is kind of making a mistake, allow the child to make a mistake and be by their side to help them and be supportive.
I think
You know,
that's most important. That's very important.
absolutely. Because I've seen even from very small age, अरे रे तुम गिर जाओगे, अरे रे ये हो जाएगा, वहां मत जाओ, this is scared, that is scared. Instead of talking about the scared, tell them how to approach that place. How did we teach them when we were crossing the road? We didn't they say day one, come on, you can run. We said you have to look left, you look right. Same applies as they grow older. Even if the child is 10, even if the child is 14, we have to every step say. And the things that parents forget is that when the child learns language skills, they say, isko sab samajh mein aata hai. Then
Right.
what do? We think that the child can make a decision, and we think the child understands the situation. It
Yeah.
may not. Maybe he understands the situation, but he's not able to look at the far-sighted risks or the hurdles that might come. And that is what the parents are able to see. But they have to share that with the child. Okay, I see this in front of me. And what is your view about that? And when you share that, then the child is able to say, oh, okay, aise hota hai. And you ample examples are there in our day-to-day life that we can share with parents
Correct.
and
Correct.
share with the child.
Right.
Things that happen at work, things that happen when they're driving down, things that happen at home, all
Hmm.
that gives examples for them, basically.
So, to a large extent, we are always in the habit of giving ready made answers, ready made solutions, solving their life in turn because we feel we as parents should make it so easy for them in their journey. They don't have to think, they don't have to struggle, they don't have to push themselves to the limit. Do you think such kind of attitude would propel creativity and critical thinking?
I think from what you're saying is that it just doesn't work, because if I don't have confidence, if I don't believe that I'm capable of doing simple exercises I've done when my niece was just 3.5 years old, everybody was having chai and everybody's having in porcelain mugs. For her, we gave her a steel glass, and she just looked at all of us and she was making senses. Why am I any different? The fear
Hmm.
is she's going to break it. So
Right.
instead, I sat next to her and said, okay, this is how you hold. You sit down cross, you get comfortable, and then you drink.
Hmm.
Not a single day after that has she ever dropped anything.
Yeah.
You need to teach them the skills so they learn how to take care of themselves. And
Right.
children love building capability. In fact, I
Hmm.
was having conversations with our school at Kalmadi, and I like to keep rapport with kids. And I was talking to eighth graders and asking them what are they doing in the pandemic,
Hmm.
things that they never did before, like I hate washing vessels, my mom is making me do that, or I don't like mopping. So we said, so everything was no coming. I don't want to do this, this is so difficult, who would want to, it's so boring. So I said, wow, what is interesting? He said, music is interesting. I said,
Hmm.
okay. So you like to listen to the music when you're sitting around? Yes. I said, and you like dancing? She said, yes. I said, why don't you just try for myself when you're washing the vessels, put your earphones, put your best music, start dancing and do it. And then
Right.
1 week later, we called her up and she says, you know what, Devsana, I quite have enjoyed it. I
Hmm.
don't like doing it very often, but I still enjoyed it. So we've
Right.
moved her thinking from not wanting to do to wanting to do.
Hmm.
Now she will always find ways how she can do a thing which is not interesting. We've
Yeah.
built a capability in a child, and
Hmm.
that is what we need to build in because she's confident next time. She needn't have to be dependent on somebody, she can do it on herself.
Yeah.
So parents will have to, I'm sure parents also know, it's only that they feel that when the child becomes older, he will do it himself. And I've had a classical situation where a parent had two kids with a gap of 7 years. So the older kid, so for the first 7 years, he was the prince of the house. So grandmother was helping, maids were helping, the parent was helping. So when the child came to about 14 years old, he didn't know how to do anything because he was just not used to it. Somebody else was doing it for him. So when he had to go from after 10th grade to to hostel, he found it so difficult to adjust
Yes.
because he was used to having things done.
True.
And if I do I do a fast forward, and I
Hmm.
was working with some MBA students for a research project, and we were talking about interviewing skills, and we had mock interviews, and we were amazed, except for the knowledge of what an organization is. But if
Right.
you ask them actual skills of how will you manage if you're in a team, they really didn't know. They were waiting for instructions. So the
True.
question is, do I want my child to be a thinker or a
Hmm.
follower?
Right.
I know every parent will want the child to be a thinker. And it
Hmm.
is so possible.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I think encouraging children and walking along with them, just like
Yes.
how we did in the initial years. We don't,
Hmm.
as they grow older, we don't have to do it so often, but we still have to teach them the first few steps before they can do. So two
Right.
extremes, totally letting them to decide on their own, and the other is holding completely and not letting them go does not
Hmm.
work. We
Right.
need to lead them and still catch them. And that's really very important.
Yeah. So that was a very good example, and couple of examples I'm sure would have related with all the viewers. Now, under this situation where children for the past 3.5 months are all locked up in their houses, classes are happening online, yet there is a need for these abilities to keep happening at the home front, and it's a good engagement tool also for the parent and the child. So if you could suggest, without them taking it as an academic nurturing, you know, it shouldn't come across like, oh, let me sit 7 o'clock, we will have some task to be done, which is like actually like a brain work with my boy or girl. And rather than that, as you said, have conversations over a chai, make it a fun activity, make it a compatible activity, a bonding activity, and thereby give more opportunities. You said, let there be more opportunities for the child to think on his feet, come up with solutions all by themselves. So give us some of these quick tips for maybe all age groups, all kind of,
Yeah.
especially for the older children, because, and of course there is a different set of tasks which moms and dads can do with the really little ones. Okay, so can we just get some quick activity tips with from you?
Activity tips are first and foremost is that we need to have a structure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's a pandemic. I have heard kids saying that they are awake till 11, 12 o'clock at times
Mm-hmm.
because they are so tired from their point of view that
Right.
they feel that they are all the time online working. They feel they are privileged and they need to have time to themselves, which means again going into screen and watching more of things which are not productive for them. Yeah. So, what can be more productive? Looking at a couple of things would be like Pinterest.
Hmm.
Pinterest is a very wonderful place where you can really download stuff and keep things that the children can do. It can be art and craft, it can be doodling. These are all relaxing stuff. It can be learning how to do short videos for yourself, how to write blogs, how to make audio tapes of conversations or learnings that they want to do using the same thing, but instead of watching either Netflix or Amazon or playing video games, they can do these kind of stuff. Yeah. So I have found that girls have also looked at fashion stuff of how they would want to look. I mean, that's okay. It's the free time for them. So they can do that also, you know, designing clothes or stuff that they want to do. But at the same time, they can also look at how they can build skills in terms of for school related projects, how to make it more interesting, how they need to cut papers and presentations which can be made. Looking at the global scenario, the thing with Indians is we don't see ourselves just as being in India. We are sitting here and we're looking that we can be a part of the global citizenship. And for that, if you want to be a global citizen, you need to be in touch reading good, authentic readings and writings that are there. You need to look at stuff which are, TED Talks of inspiring people and
Mm-hmm.
have conversations about that. You know, sometimes it can even be just how a person does the opening of Oscar or
Right.
Grammy, which, because how do they use humor?
Hmm.
And it's just not slapstick.
Right.
There is a lot of thought going into that.
In fact,
So you
humor
don't have to always be
uses,
serious.
yeah,
You didn't have to be serious at all.
yes.
And you have, even at Netflix, you have where you have best chefs displaying aesthetically food items. You have exploring the world where you go into the jungle. Kids who like astronomy and physics can read something which is beyond the school, you know, what
Right.
it really means and what kind of ideas that they can get from there. Because these are the mysteries that they're all the time pondering, but they never
Hmm.
had time to really spend.
True.
So they can use that to have conversations with parents or even older friends in the block or cousins and have conversations with them. So
Hmm.
it can be both from personal interest to linking with academia as with an extra out of the school area as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How to make a telescope, how to make a microphone. How do they? What are the components that have taken place in terms of the advantages of technology that is coming? Kids
Hmm.
are very curious about all these things. If you have old instruments and stuff, allow them to tear it apart and use it and do whatever they can. So we have lots of cartons that come,
Hmm.
tear it apart and do it. Not stopping in terms of abhi ye ganda ho jayega. Keep a corner which it can be for young and for old. Keep a
Yes.
corner where you teach. The only thing parents are worried about is a messy space.
Yes.
But you also have to introduce by saying that if I'm going to use a space, I will respect by cleaning and clearing. It may not be to the best of the parents' ability, but definitely if they are taught, they will do it.
Right.
Put a sheet, put newspapers, and then sit if you're doing a painting. Wear an old T-shirt or something when you're doing all this glue sticking and cutting with gum and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
they can do many things like that. And I feel if parents spend 1 hour every week just looking at either the YouTube, the TEDx talks, Pinterest, and download stuff and put it in a folder, which can suffice for a week. If a couple of parents of similar age groups can share it with each other,
Mm-hmm.
if you can make a small group, you can find out. I mean, like we had a parent who had come with us for a morning walk, which was a part of our nature trail, and she ended up being interested in gemology. So she
Hmm.
talked about minerals and stones, and we found that walk itself became so interesting.
Hmm.
So amongst parents, you can find out what are your interest areas, and they can give Zoom talks अपने बच्चे के लिए नहीं तो एक ग्रुप का हो जाएगा ना, एटलीस्ट
Right.
5 kids are entertained, that parent is free, then next 1 week some other parent can take care. So this is a community building also that really happens, and children also learn, I need to share, I can share ideas and we can do things together.
Yeah.
So I think a lot can be done from home and shift. The only thing is parents have to see that 1 hour and they have to shift track.
Yes.
1 hour of sitting, 1 hour of physical. Ask them to move around, clean the mirrors, go up and down the stairs, assist in cooking a little bit,
Hmm.
whatever. So
Hmm.
if you alternate it, it always helps. When children get bored, when they are sitting and not knowing what to do next, but if they
Correct.
have a plan, then they are all set. They're excited, in fact. I
Right.
need to now clear the table. After that, I'm going to do some doodling. After
Hmm.
doodling, I'm going to listen to music. After that, I'm going to take the phone and just look around what are the plants are there around me. Small
Hmm.
things like that. So if there is a kind of a routine, that goes in, you can
Hmm.
even make small cards and say this music, performing arts, reading about nature, looking at certain videos, then
Right.
kids can really do that.
Hmm. Hmm. Because usually now, 24/7 moms and dads are with the children, and people are running out of ideas what to do with these children. They can't go out and play, and yet there has to be a bonding and development going on. And what I hear from you, all these activities can be done with any age group, not
Absolutely.
necessarily a particular age group, with any age group. Now tell me, there is a certain kind of child who is maybe more brighter, okay, or maybe more creative, and ideas come to him naturally, you know. On one hand, right now we just discussed where the parental role or the adult in their life has to propel the thinking or has to create the opportunity. And there are these children who are naturally very bright, all right. How do we
Absolutely.
identify such children? And if in our homes these children are there, how would a parent have indicators that, oh, my child has this special creative talent, and then further on have a support system for him?
One first point is not looking at gender. This is
Okay,
what a boy has to do, and this is what a girl has to do.
correct.
Today, there is no gender. A boy also is interested in cooking and aesthetically presenting food, and a girl might be interested in editing and videotaping, stuff like that. So, looking at activities which are gender, as no gender bias, they're gender free. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that when we are talking about children, uh, like a lot of challenges, you know, and they find it that when they're having too many ideas, they are not able to focus and do one particular thing.
Hmm.
So when they're coming with too many ideas, and this it just remains an idea. So the common thing that parents will say, like, you have a lot of ideas, but I don't see anything happening. Instead, we can say, okay, for today, from your this idea, let's explore this thing. If you give them a direction, children really like to do. Many a times I've seen children find out. I mean, I had recently from, I think, VK Patil School, one of the kids who had come out with how to have locker combinations with just a cardboard.
Right.
So these are things which are available materials at home. Just using that, the child was able to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And when we're talking about creative challenges, when a child has so many ideas, he is also looking for acknowledgement and assurance that it is okay.
Right.
And we need to say, yes, it is okay for him
Yeah.
or her to do it.
Yeah.
Let him go ahead and explore. If we are saying, like, first and foremost, I think is that because of the lockdown, parents will have to just go and see if they can grab all these artistic stuff in the art craft shop. Not just go to a stationery shop, go to a tailor, go to a guy, hardware guy, go to the glass and wood, those who sell, ask them for all the small pieces that are there and collect it. Because children can make wonderful stuff even with that. Wood small pieces. They can make furniture. They can make miniature stuff. They can try making a car, a different kind of bike. We don't explore. We see them as wastes.
Right.
And these things, the hardware store or the carpentry guy, they will be very happily to give. Some of them even give it to you for just like a 50 rupee or a 100 buck, Except when they're working with glass, we need to be a little careful. But otherwise, I'm sure these are things that children can definitely access. And it's going to be raining in the next 2, 3 months. If
Hmm.
parents can kind of stock and keep it in the corner, child can use it as per his or her, you know
Hmm.
just not physical creativity, mental creativity is very important.
Right.
Writing about uh, one common things that we have always been writing about is how was your holiday,
Yes.
experiences of your last visit, travel.
Hmm.
What is your favorite food? Can you describe with smell and all that stuff?
Hmm.
If they are able to write that those kind of experiences.
Hmm.
Next is taking them to the next level. You are
Hmm.
right now in Pune, you're in Kotari school. If you were an eighth grader and you are in a competition, you're competing with everybody in India, how best you have to be.
Right.
That kind of raises the kind of bar for the child. And the
Yeah.
child says, oh, because many a times they're just looking only at the classroom of 30, 40 kids. They're not
Hmm.
thinking that there are so many others competing with me. And I
Yes.
need to really up my game and I need to really improve my presentation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So getting ideas about that and also looking at, um, they can take their ninth graders can say, okay, what are the best projects for physics from anywhere in India or outside? You will get a lot of ideas. We
Hmm.
are not asking the real keywords, that's really very important because I'm a researcher. When we do PhD, we are always taught how to really, find authentic stuff. So we
Yeah.
are all the time looking at, okay, where are the best ideas coming from?
Hmm.
Technology, we are getting it from here. Certain ideas, when you go to Germany, they are perfectionists. Everything is simple and yet scientific. How do we
Hmm.
look at scientific ways of presenting
Hmm.
things?
Hmm.
Small observations. So parents can have conversations. In fact, when we went to a ticket counter, what do? We keep our bag and we keep it on our leg, near our leg. Okay.
True.
And then we are looking at. They have made a small tube you can, which is just near your leg, and you can just put your bag there.
Hmm.
Very simple idea. So innovations need have to be very big innovations. It is
Right.
just making life simpler and easier. So you
Hmm.
can, and that is also problem solving. You can
Yes.
look at a kid and say that I think the curtain rod is not functioning well. See
Hmm.
how else we can fix. We can't call the carpenter. Child
Right.
will come up with. All of us can
Correct.
look at ideas how we
Correct.
can do it. You
Correct.
know, these
Yeah.
are small things that intrigues a child, and he feels challenged to do it.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. And such ideas are umpteen in the household. And I'm sure with now no electrician, carpenter, plumber being able to enter houses, it could be a big task and a big, beautiful, challenging task which can be assigned to the children. But then again, as you said, how many parents would like to see their children work with a hammer and a nail, or work with scraps, or work with tidbits of broken things? We always want them neat and tidy, right? So to get them to do this kind of a critical thinking, to get them to do this kind of a thinking, we have to have our mindset undergoing a change. How do we initiate in this kind of a discussion? I mean, suddenly if you tell the child who has never changed a bulb also in the house, okay, you just tell him, all right, I think this is fuse, why don't you fix it? Okay, he would be shocked. He would be like, oh wow, what's wrong with dad? Why is he making me work like a servant today, or something of that sort? So how do you initiate environment in the house where the child and the parent becomes comfortable, and then thinking and resolving becomes a natural part of my life? Just give
You
any
start,
example. How do we start?
yeah, you start very nicely when you said mess. And then we're talking about initially, it looks like a mess. Yes, every situation. When I enter the kitchen, it is a mess. I
Right.
clean it, clear it, and then a beautiful dish comes. So before preparation, there is a lot of mess. So any activity, it will be. And as you see the mess, you should not get scared and say, oh my God, my child is making a mess. I have to do it or I have to clear it. You have to accept and embrace that. That's the first step. And therefore I like this aerial ad which says Gandagi Acha Hai. I mean,
Huh.
that was mind blowing. I mean, who would
Yeah.
have thought when you said dirt is acceptable? But
Yeah.
they've made it look after that, what happens? You get something clean, you get a
Yes.
good product. And we need to work towards that product. And before that, it goes through that machine before it becomes clean.
Yeah.
Same thing happens. What you're suggesting is that children will start. How do you do change a bulb? And that's exactly what I was thinking in the morning when I started thinking of problem solving. And I said, earlier the roles are very clearly defined between men can do this and women can do it. That's why I started by saying it has to be gender free. And I remember that if a bulb got fused, we would say, let's wait for dad to come. Okay. Some homes we'll say we'll have to wait for the electrician. We don't know what has happened. But if you find that it's late and you don't know what to do, you start switching off, switching on, putting something in, taking it out. Of course, you're very careful. When you do that, you learn something works and something doesn't work. And you learn from that, okay, these things didn't work for me. And after so many ways, I found out something right. And you always find when children are stuck, they give up easily. And
Yeah.
that is not something a very good habit at all. If you allow them to continue to pursue, they do come up with very brilliant ways of doing it. We can have a discussion and say, okay, how do you think we need to? These days, of course, they immediately go and look at YouTube and say, how do you fix it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
before going to YouTube, let me think and then say, who's given a better idea? Helping children to pause and think, I think, is very, very, very important and critical.
Yes.
Not jumping to say that I have to come up with an answer immediately. Because
Yeah.
that's what even in schools we do. We don't ask the kid to come up with an answer immediately. We said, Pehle socho, think, and then you tell me. When you
Mm.
think, you have more ideas. I don't come up with the first best idea. I come up with many ideas and I can choose the best one from that. And these are all habits towards critical and creative thinking.
Very true. Very true.
So parents will also have to do that, because when you walk the talk, the child initially imitates up to, let's say, primary. After that, he starts using his own thought process.
Hmm.
So when he's imitating, let's create good imitation.
Right.
So much so that his thinking also just follows in a very good pattern.
Right.
Yeah. The process is really very important.
Yeah.
Not immediately jumping to, okay, I want it done.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't enjoy when people say I've got it done.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they say, no, let me try a different way. I've arrived at this, but let me try something else and then let me see which one is the best.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
today, kids want to just come with one and just stop there.
Yes.
And therefore, then that's the difference between the kid who is doing excellence and the kid who's just behind him. And the
Yes.
kid who comes with excellence never stops at just the first one. He tries many things and he has to be completely accepting of what he comes up with. He will not stop till he gets it right. And the
Very
same
true.
habit has to go for others also.
Very true. Very true. And as you very rightly said, there would be a time when the child would give up and say, I've given you one solution, or I have tried enough, and that's enough for today. And that's when adult intervention has to set in, and then we have to motivate, we have to boost them and bring out their potentials further, right?
Absolutely.
And that's when, as you said, they would role model the mom and dad or the adult in their life and say, oh, I have never seen him giving up, I've never seen him satisfied with only one solution, I've never seen him doing it right and then giving up on it. He did it right, but then he kept improving on it. Okay, so
Absolutely.
these are set patterns which actually drive excellence in children. I think it's very beautifully given in, wherein today all of us are chasing a number, a result, or a marks. Yeah. And
Yes.
the process, you also mentioned that, I'm in a journey. I'm not arriving at a destination so soon. Right. We can always keep improvising upon our destination, even if we feel, I think I'm close by, let me still not choose to unboard. Let me just continue, because I may just improve and reach a better destination, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there is a particular kind of attribute the parent has to develop here to have that kind of a persistence built in, because there's an emotional cord there, because you may be talking as a professional when you're giving these guidelines, but when a mother sees the child toiling, for her it's the penultimate. My child has put in so much, right? So
Yeah.
what is that little small little tip that you can give for the mom and dad?
One is patience, patience, wait and see what the child is going to come up with. And when he's ready to give up, hug him and give him more belief that he can try some more. He will be able to see things at home. Like, for example, if we were to do training program, either me or my husband, we're never happy. It's the same topic and I can give it for the next 3 years. But every
Mhm.
time we go to a new group, we will change the PPTs, we will try to incorporate something. And the children are asking, but you already have it ready. You just have to go and talk. He says, no, but
Right.
I get bored. I need to do every time something different. Then
Right.
I get excited. When I get excited, others get excited when they want to hear. So
True.
that transference of positivity and energy is very important. So children also need to see that when they see something and enthusiasm about it, not like, I mean, as a psychologist, we are always talking about in a very encouraging term, and parents would say, like, where do we have time for something like that? When you are totally tired and you're irritated, we're not suggesting you do it. It's
Correct.
fine. Child understands. Same thing if the child is irritated, no matter what you try, he's not going to do it. Same
True.
applies to us. But we can do other times. We can be
Yes.
enthusiastic other times. And that is really very good. If we were to take the car and start driving, today we are only talking about Arey aur do mahina ghar mein baithna padega.
Yeah.
This is depressing. Instead, say that let's think of a destination we want to go after this. Build vision of something more wonderful. Then
True.
the child knows, it's false right now. But you can make it say that do things which are achievable. We will do
Yes.
this, we will do that. Then the child looks forward to it. And the same thing happens. These are small things you learn in terms of life skills also. If I'm facing something which is a problem for me when I grew up, I don't give up. I think of the good things that will come to me and I work towards it. So these are very subtle messages parents are giving, which are actually life skills for future. It's
Yeah.
not for today. These are all small, small building blocks for tomorrow, actually.
Very
But
right.
we think that they are, not important. Then the
Mm.
foundation is not good. That's
Yeah.
when we have children breaking down. I mean, it's sad when I hear children are using words like "I'm depressed," "I'm overwhelmingly
Yes.
tired."
Yes.
Where did you hear this word depressed?
Yes.
You know, or in Marathi, "Kantalala," very bored.
Ah.
What do you mean,
Yes.
very bored? I
Correct.
don't feel like doing is fine.
Yes.
Saying bored so often, and
Yes.
parents also getting upset, like, "Arey, he's bored. We have to do something exciting for the child." We don't
Yeah.
have to do anything exciting. Let the child find out.
Yes.
Boredom leads to creativity sometimes.
Yes.
You know, he will
Yes.
become lazy. No, he can. So giving a pause and encouraging is always really very good. And
Yes.
we have to change the way we talk, and it's all in our hands.
Yes.
If we talk about those things. So the rule for me at my house is like, COVID के बारे में बहुत मालूम है. Let's not talk COVID at all.
Yes.
We have kids who are fearful,
Hmm.
very paranoid, and
Hmm.
specifically using very paranoid because we are so cautious. They think that I can't touch anything, I can't breathe. There
Hmm.
was one kid who was just 7 years old. He says, if people are dying and everybody gets wiped out from the world, what will happen to the world? I mean, they're looking at extreme situations,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know. So we need
True.
to calm them down and says that yes, there will be
Yeah.
people dying and there will be people continuing to live. We need to
True.
build our positivity and be creative. So
Yes.
looking for positivity after this so-called phase is very important. And
Absolutely.
reassuring children that it's fine. Looking at
Yes.
smaller things that they can do. That
Yes.
has really helped them.
Yeah.
I'm sure parents are already doing that. I can see a lot of change in parents. We have embraced not having our maids in our house. We have embraced doing it. I mean, we complained the first 2 weeks and we start complaining because complain when we bored ho gaya. How much to complain?
Yeah.
Complaint has got bored of being
Mm.
complained. So now
Mm.
we're looking at, okay, this is fun. Yeah, we don't even talk about that. We talk about other things. So
Right.
gradually we move to this child learns, oh, this is how we need to do. First time I grip, second time I complain, third time I can't keep complaining. I have to look at something else and do it. So these are all small, small miracles that is happening in our life actually.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Desai, for joining us on the first session of this expert talk series, and for giving us your valuable time, your precious inputs, which would certainly get our parent and teacher community involved in engaging and thinking with our children, with this consideration that it's not only for today, it's for their future. And creativity and critical thinking abilities is something which is just not innate and natural. It has to be developed, it has to be inculcated. There's a lot of role model behavior, that there's a lot of parental and adult intervention support system that we have to generate around them and really make it viable. And tell me once when humanity has not been struck with crisis, but we have always been creative and critically aligned. We have always thought our ways and means, be it the digitization or be it any kind of problem, we have resolved it. We have it naturally in us. It's just that we don't have to give up. And thank you, viewers, for joining in. And I'm sure the Expert Talk series will open new avenues for growth in your mind, because Dr. Devasena Desai is just not here for one session. We would continue the series and we would take you up to a lot more ability discoveries and developments for our children, because we all grow along with them. Each day is our new learning, isn't it, Dr. Desai? So, with
Thank
that,
you. Thank you so much.
thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you, parents, and all the very best. There's nothing to be overly concerned about. I'm sure all these are opportunities, and you will see different aspects of your own children in today's times and enjoy what's happening around. All the very best, and thank you once again for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Ishita. Thank you for your
Thank you.
support.
Thank you.